Hello, welcome back. This is Omni Talk Retail. I'm Ann Mazinga.
And I'm Chris Walton.
And we are coming to you from the Simbe booth, number 118 at FMI. Big thanks to Simbe for helping us bring you all of the interviews that we've been bringing you for the last 3 days here at the show. Next up, we have Justin Weinstein, the Chief Marketing and Merchandising Officer at Giant Eagle. Justin, welcome.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you
me.
back. It's only been a few months since you
only
last
been a few
were on the
months.
show, but
Yeah.
we're excited to catch up. You've got a lot to share with us, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So like what I remember specifically about our conversation together was your $100 million Because It Matters initiative. You guys were just like set to launch that,
we
right?
were.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, we were.
So I'm curious, let's get a progress report. How's it been going?
Things have been great.
Really?
Things have been really great. Yeah, we've been doing all the things we talked about doing. We rolled out, what was a new strategy for us that had a lot of consistency with what we had been focused on previously, but with really a renewed focus around growth inside of our supermarket and our pharmacy business. And that work is well underway. We had a really good holiday season. We've been really focused around the 3 pillars that we talked about. How do we reinvest back into our stores? How do we really sharpen value? And we've done a lot of work around both our promotional plans and our price plans over the last months that have been successful. And then thirdly, how do we really supercharge the work we're doing around fresh and around quality? We have a new leader who we hired, Ruth McClellan, who's leading that business for us in addition to our market district business. And she's off to the races in terms of a whole bunch of work across fresh to really supercharge what we're doing.
Justin, what are some of the key elements in terms of reinvesting into the stores, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, for sure. It's everything from really building what the prototype of the future is in terms of a Giant Eagle, being able to look department by department in terms of where are those areas of differentiation that we want to lean into. How do we think about the future of what a modern produce department looks like? How do we look at how meat and seafood are going to shine inside of our stores? How do we bring the theater around things like bakery to market? And so it's a lot of that work. And then it's also a lot of work in terms of really looking at our store footprint and saying, how do we deploy dollars effectively into areas either that we haven't touched in a moment or areas where we really see the demand and we want to be there for that customer.
Well, Justin, I imagine one of the things that's impacting the store footprint of the future for you all is GLP-1s, which you talked about with us at Grocery Shop. Catch us up on that. I mean, what is your thought as you approach marketing and merchandising for Giant Eagle? What is that going to change, or how is that going to impact, what stores look like, kinds of marketing and promotional things that you're going to put out for consumers? Give us a little bit of an overview on that, if you don't mind.
It's a great question, and I think when we talked back at Grocery Shop, it was just as pervasive of a conversation as it is today. It's probably intensified.
It has.
Being here at FMI, I've met with many of our CPG partners, and I think our goal as a retailer and our goal in partnership with our supplier partners is we have to be one step ahead of the consumer in terms of what they're looking for. The last time we talked a lot about protein.
I was going to say, how many protein enhanced samples have you had over the course of the last 3 days?
I'm well fed here on the last day.
Dialysis after this conference.
The next big trend that we're seeing is a lot of talk around fiber. Inside of the market. And I think that, that does double back into the GLP-1 trend. In terms of our pharmacy business, affordability is key. We've done a lot of work with folks like GoodRx to really lean in, be able to bring some of these drugs to consumers at a lower retail price. And so it's really a holistic strategy, but I think it starts with the customer, and it's really being there with them, for them, helping them guide through how is their diet ultimately going to need to change.
And what about the space allocation in the store? I mean, is that going to be changing, you think, as consumers when we're walking through the store or walking through a Giant Eagle? Like, what is that going to look like, and how might that be different?
Yeah, I think, in many ways it plays to an area we've been focused on for a long time, which is fresh, because nutrient-dense product is really important. People are looking for that protein, and they're not just looking for it down the aisles. They absolutely are. They're also looking for it from us, as you think about the role that, to your point, meat and seafood is playing. You think about the role that that produce is playing. Those are really important areas for us, and we want to lean in everywhere we can.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, so this is one of my favorite questions to ask whenever I get the chance to ask it. So I'm going to ask you because you were just on a show with us recently. So agentic commerce, big buzzword at NRF, big buzzword here. Do you think it's overhyped, underhyped, or properly hyped for the grocery industry, by the grocery industry right now, I should say?
I think it's properly hyped.
Properly hyped?
I think it's properly hyped. I think there should be real hype around it.
Okay, why?
I do, and I think it's, any trend that we're seeing that's changing the way that people interact with tech and with product and with making decisions inside of their life is something that I think we should pay a lot of attention to. And, in the same way that, go back a few years, TikTok was all the rage, not really because of commerce, but because of social interaction. I think the same ways that changed behavior, and we're starting to see commerce catch up to how the TikTok economy is operating. I think agentic AI is that really on steroids in a whole number of ways, and we have not seen massive changes in how customers are shopping today.
Right.
And so this is not about going and trying to go further than where the customer is, but I think we know that customers are spending a lot of time starting to really interact with AI around how they're eating, what decisions they're making inside of their life. We need to take that seriously as retailers. We need to be providing solutions, whether it's on those platforms that they're on and or on our own platform, which we've done a lot of work on at Giant Eagle to really bring AI into the app experience, the web experience, wherever we can.
It's a good way to frame it up.
Justin, has that changed then, and that being agentic commerce or agentic AI, has that changed how you approach retail media then as you're trying to talk to your consumers?
Yeah, I think the short and the honest answer is I don't think yet.
No. Okay.
I don't think yet.
Okay.
I think that's coming.
Okay.
And I think we're all trying to figure out what are those pivot points and those additional enablement levels we'll be able to have with the customer.
Yeah.
But I don't see that today really with the rubber meeting the road on that.
Is there anything that you think has to happen where you'd have greater confidence, or you'd be feeling more compelled to kind of move that forward or tap agentic AI?
I think it's really the commerce element has to catch up to the AI element.
Right.
And that, to me, that's the gap that exists today.
Especially in grocery. Right.
Especially in grocery.
Yep.
I mean, it's one thing, in other sectors, it's easier in some cases to really connect those dots. I think today, given the basket size we see, given the complexity of meal planning, people are looking for counsel, but they're not necessarily looking to take it that next step. I think once we figure out with our partners and others how that next step is going to be taken, I think that's really what then leads into how does it impact retail media, how does it impact broader e-commerce, et cetera.
Yeah. Right, that makes sense.
All right, so let's get you out of here on this. A couple more questions just to close things up. So we're at the Simbe booth. You recently just announced or embarked on a partnership with them. So I'd love for you to touch on that in terms of the rationale there. And then also, what are your priorities for the next 6 months as you look to, expand either on Because It Matters or any of the other topics we touched on today?
Yeah. Well, I'll connect Simbe back to, what is a top priority of ours, which is we want to be the best retailer we can be. And, I've spent a lot of time over these last few days talking about the blocking and tackling that we need to do each and every day to be there for the customer.
Right.
An example of that is big snowstorm coming to many of our markets here. We leaned in yesterday very quickly, launched free delivery through the weekend across all of our markets for all of our customers as a way to be there. And I connect that back to we need to be able to act quickly inside of the market. Simbe is an example of a partner who is allowing us to really get a whole new level of insight and data in terms of where the gaps are inside of a store in real time, and being able to connect that back to our supply chain, being able to connect that back to our operations teams, our merchants, how we're thinking about marketing.
Right.
All of those dots need to be connected, and Simbe is helping us do that. We've actually been partnered with Simbe for a long time in a pilot fashion, and we're excited about the prospect of how do we expand that out. But it really comes back to operational rigor. Take a weekend like we're about to have. how do we equip our stores with the most information that they can have so that they can be there for the customer. And that's what Simbe's doing. There's a whole host of partners that are in a similar space for us.
Yeah, especially having that inventory visibility becomes even more critical when
Critically
people
important.
can't get out into the stores because of the weather. Well, Justin, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for giving us your time here at FMI.
Happy to.
Thank you again to Simbe for helping us bring you these interviews all week long. And until our next interview,
be careful out there.